Despite grabbing pole in Wisconsin, Grotto was unable to deliver in the race itself. The only thing that prevented him from losing more points to Briggs was that Thomas similarly fell down the order and finished behind him. That said, with 2 races left, multiple drivers are well within striking range. Can any of them tighten it up even more tonight? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Club Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Michael Johnson. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. So we arrive for Event 6 at the Red Bull Ring. This is the penultimate event in Series 9, and it takes us on a swooping ride through the Austrian countryside. But this place is known for its heavy braking zones, offering up great chances to overtake, so watch for action in the corners. But before we get to the racing, we're proud to announce that Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find out more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Series 9 is also sponsored by Six Sigma Sim Racing, which was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. Six Sigma offers 10% off to any PCA member from the website, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit their website at sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Now, we arrive here at the Red Bull Ring, looking forward to how this race will unfold because, as we said, Michael, this is a good chance to try and put yourself in a good position for the finale, so I could foresee some aggression.
And aggression is not the right tack to take at this track. Unfortunately, it happens. If you get too aggressive here, especially with the seemingly fluid track limits, as we watch here Enrico Gregorato going through this final corner down into A1, he can actually get out a lot wider there to make that corner. And here, you've got all of that green and white that you saw running down the center of the car. You can have your right side tires on that. So he's got a little more room to go. But does he want to get that aggressive, get the car a little bit off its balance? And then going through this first corner, Niki Lauda corner right here, you've got that huge sausage curb that can create some unrest for the car. And the person right behind you is ready to jump on that as they head down towards Remus. So this track, man, there are so many opportunities for the patient driver. You've got to be patient here. Aggression will call you in. It will scream your name, but you've got to ignore it.
Well, we'll see who gives in. But right now in the championship, because we were talking a little bit about that, and up at the top of it, Logan Grotto currently holds that position by about 60 or so points there. So it's not the biggest margin that we've seen. And considering it's 360 plus points for wins out here, it could be swallowed up quite easily. And Gregorato and Facciolo both finished better than them in the last race. So they actually gained some ground. And in fact, you could go pretty far down for those that are still in mathematical contention, but being realistic, we'll probably be looking at just those top 4, depending on how today goes. Just a quick reminder, though, that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Right now, Grotto does hold the pole position, and those do hand out points. Your qualifying position does give a decent chunk of what will be your final tally, hopefully, if you finish well. So it is important to try and perform well here before we even get to the race, Michael. But Gregorato has a long ways to go to get ahead of him. It is 0.8 of a second between first and second.
I think he's got it, though. When we were just on board with him just a few minutes ago, he really wasn't using all the track. Now is the time right at the end. This is what I like to do. Go out, put in a good banker lap, feel comfortable with it, being in P2 is a good place to be. If he really wants pole, take it. But the secret, and I think I caught you out on this one a little when I was racing here, Joe, you want to be in P2 because the launch off the line going up into Niki Lauda, the better place to be is on the outside on the first lap, but first lap only. Other laps, yeah, you don't want to be out there. But on that first lap in the run down there, the most advantageous place for you to be is the outside.
We'll see if he's figured that trick out or not as Greg Arado brings it through the last couple corners through Rent and A1. Oh, someone else has gotten a little closer. Two people, Briggs and Prescott, both take second and third respectively. While Greg Arado goes faster to a 30 flats, he's still about half a second off of Grotto, and he improves up into third. It looks like here in the dying stages, there's a few drivers that are finding that little bit of speed right when they need it.
Yeah, and just dipping into the 29s here, we see we've got two drivers in Briggs and Grotto. 29s in this weather with this car is about as fast as you're going to get without a really good draft. Now, if you've got a drafting partner, it is possible to get to those low 29s, maybe even high 28s, but it's going to take one special kind of lap to make that happen.
Chad Dick managed to get himself into sixth just now as we continue to watch with Prescott, who has not completed his lap yet. A few other cars are able to finish up their flyers. Ben Leung does not improve. Scott Kessel goes off track, so he's definitely not going to improve. And yeah, there is a little bit of slipstream, it looks like, on offer here. So this could be something that helps him out. No, he's pulling off to the side. Looks like Prescott is in fact done now. So he didn't like how that lap was going. Facciolo following on Sachs, who sits in fifth position. Needs 9/10 to get up to Grotto. Not showing him as improving on that right now as he crosses. It is a 30 flats, so that'll at least get him to fourth, but he still needs some pace if he wants to challenge him in the race itself.
P4 is a good place for Nick to be. I've raced with and against Nick before. Good driver. Up on that pointy end of the field, he's going to be really effective in finding those little holes to slide through. He's good at putting pressure on people and getting them to make a mistake they didn't really foresee happening. So Nick, if you're listening, do to them what you do to me every time we're on track together, and it's going to work out great for you.
Well, the grid is actually set now as nobody else is able to put a time in. So Logan Grotto will get that pole position by a pretty decent margin, not as extreme as what we saw before. It's wound up 3.5 tenths. Thomas Briggs will be P2 and Enrico Gregorato will start from third. Facciolo P4 for him will be followed by Prescott on the inside of row 3 and Chad Dick in 6th. It's Chris Cook in 7th, followed by the likes of Jake Faulkner in 8th. Joachim Baker will be P9. Scott Kessel rounds out the top 10. We'll scroll through the rest of the field here. Not the largest we've seen, but a decent amount, especially for what isn't a terribly long lap at only a minute 30. Nearly 40 drivers on the grid. And it is a standing start this time, so hopefully they practice that here, Michael.
Yeah, standing starts are a little different here with this car. It's not really used to a standing start. This is a GT3 class. They are typically going to be a rolling start car. So getting off the line takes a little bit of trickery that you can get away with in the sim, not so much in real life.
I'll give you a few words of advice from race control on expectations before they get going, but just about have everybody out there at this point. Looking for Briggs, our front row starter. He's taking his time. They get about 2 minutes before they run out of time, and then they'll be forced to start from pit lane. Somebody who's in the middle of the pack might want to do that, but they do have to get permission from the stewards to do so, and I don't remember seeing any notes on anyone having done that, so I anticipate everybody's going to try and start from out there on the front stretch. Looks like I think we might have everyone out. No, it looks like we're still missing Jonathan Fields and Ken Eskridge, but everybody else is on the grid of our 38 and should be getting going in just a moment here. Again, the penultimate round of Series 9, so it's do or die time if you want to try and put yourself in a good spot for the finale and make sure that you're not under the gun to try and make it work.
Is Kessel not in yet either? I don't see him showing up on mine.
He's grayed out on mine, but sometimes that happens. It does look like he is out there. But that is it. Time is up. The engines now start to rev. The lights come up, and the green flag is out. Grotto looks like he's decent off the line, but Briggs has to go defensive on Gregorato immediately. He got a little bit of wheel spin as he tried to get the car going. They almost rubbed doors together there as they get awful close up into Lauda behind them. The typical 3-wide checkup into that first turn, and it's a very trepidatious run into that first corner. Nobody wants to try and run into one another because of the strict standards, so it looks like we're clean through turn 1.
Yeah, nice driving there by everyone, but looking for some things to open up here. Taking that tighter line on this corner is good as a defensive move when you get into Remus, but you don't want to try to do that every time. Being a little bit wide of that apex is better, but watch as we come down into Schlossgold right here. This is going to be our first opportunity where people are going to start testing. You see people going too wide, coming down into the corner, going a little bit wide, kicking up some dirt as they come on that exit. Everyone's just trying to find their limits right now, but I think we're going to start seeing some real action happening real soon.
And Briggs was more than just a little wide. He was dragging both wheels in the dirt, and that meant Gregorato easily blew past into P2. Not looking good for Briggs here. Remember, he's got to finish ahead of Grotto to try and run down some of those points. Or even hopefully maybe surpass him on points, but he'll need Logan to finish pretty far down the order for that to happen. In the meantime, I can tell you that Jonathan Fields did, in fact, start from pit lane. So, not sure if he was given permissions for that, but I guess we'll find out soon enough whether or not he gets himself some sort of penalty. Meanwhile, you see the lead group back up to finish lap 1. Grotto, Gregorato, Briggs, Facciolo, Prescott are your top 5.
Yeah, a lot of times starting from that pit lane, especially with a track like this with such a tight turn 1, you kind of want to do that if you're mid-pack and you don't want to get caught up in a 3 or even 4 wide situation going through that corner. But let's get back to the action here. Look at this. We got a 2 wide coming up into Remus. It's going to get tight through here. Takes that inside line, lets him through, looks for the over-under, takes a quick peek, but nope, not going to do it. Maybe he'll get him coming down the straight into Schlossgold.
Yeah, Kemp versus Sinclair here. That's Sinclair in the green and white as he follows in the tire tracks of Steven in the number 37 car. Nope, nobody's going to poke their nose out now. I have noticed that you talked about the patience paying off a lot more than aggression here, and I haven't seen a lot of aggression, but I'm not sure how much of that is the patience and how much is the fact that they only have 11 incident points here, Michael, before they get a drive-through.
Well, 11 incident points come very quickly at this track, especially if you're trying to push a little bit on the edge to open up a gap or to close in up on somebody. It's very easy, especially right here. That, I'll guarantee you right there, Briggs just got 1 incident point on that. He was just a touch wide, got outside of that green and white section, out onto the just plain green section. Very likely an incident point right there.
He's been hounding Gregorato ever since he lost that spot. In fact, we're getting information that Briggs is already up to 4 incidents. And remember, this is an hour race, so he can't afford to keep that average up. He's got to really clean up his act, or else he will wind up with a penalty or potentially even a DNF because they are DQ'd at 25 incidents. Meanwhile, battle behind them, as it looks like Chris Cook is on the inside of Faulkner. Faulkner just has to bleed it out over that tall sausage curb and is now going to try and come back at him. We're on board with Kessel as he watches the pair fight.
Yeah, if he hadn't gotten on that sausage curb, he probably could have held on to that. Look at that defensive line. You've got a nice defensive position there, like I was saying earlier, a couple of ways into, a couple of ways out of this corner. All good, all with the right point, but there is one fast option here. Everything else is either attack or defense.
So they carry on down through the infield portion. Rauch and Vert here, which is a bit of a swift pair of corners. A little wide there coming off for Scott Kessel, but he keeps it within the track boundaries. Meanwhile, it looks like somebody had a problem. Bellestieri is off course. The 516 looks like he has had a serious issue.
Yeah, a little bit of an issue. And if we get a little bit back in the pack towards about 21st or so, you've got Bayash running up on Cottle, but Witt falling back in between them. there's a good battle brewing right there. We've got a big cluster of cars going 3 wide, and ooh, little bit of action there, getting a little bit too close for comfort, sending off, and that's going to be a wheel that will not roll anymore.
No, he might have had wings on his car. Oh, we had a big accident, unfortunately, on the front stretch. Chip Witt got into Robert Cottle. My goodness, a whole bunch of cars had to scatter for this one. Thankfully, again, everybody was extremely heads up today, and I think only about 4 or 5 wound up involved. It could have been an actual track blockage there, as we now watch the number 4 of Thomas Briggs, who did get by on Gregorado. And this just happened into Ramus.
Yeah, this track is a great one for visibility. I do really appreciate this track design in that you are able to see where incidents have happened just in front of you, where a lot of corners, something's in the way, especially like street circuits where you just can't see around the wall. Here, you've got a long line of sight where you're able to spot things that have happened, and the warning system with the flags through iRacing is still very good to keep you posted of something that might have gone awry. Oh, and we're a little bit wide here. Go, just pulls it in. That's Joe Sinclair getting a little bit wide as he heads down into A1. He's able to slow it down a little bit, not get that incident point. Good recovery drive on that one.
So an update on Ballestieri, who was the one we saw spinning through Vert and getting hit. He actually got the penalty for that one, unfortunately. So insult to injury there. He'll have to come in and serve that after he had to take his spare car and has finally emerged back on the track.
Yeah, lots of activity up and down. People right now, it seems like everyone's trying to find the position they're supposed to race in for a little while. I think we're going to see a good, solid push for position before it's time to go and get some fuel and tires. Now, something they're able to do now with iRacing is get tires at the same time they can get fuel. Previously, up until this release, you were only allowed to. Whoa, good move down the inside there. Beautifully done, Terrence Tong. Taking it easy, not trying to press the matter too much. Good job from everybody involved there. But back to the tires. Yeah, in previous versions, you were not able to take tires at the same time you were taking fuel, but now you can.
That's Holmes getting the spot. Nicely done. And then Tong slots in between him and Hayosh, but Hayosh now has the good run. As they head towards Rent, this is not a corner you really want to take side by side. Something's got to give here, or someone. Let's see who it is in the end, and it looks like Hayosh has to bleed out of it.
Yeah, good move by Hayosh. I've been watching him out of the corner of my eye. He's been able to get up pretty close. There was a little bit of metal mashing going on there for a bit with some cars around him, so he was being unusually careful. Right now, sticking the nose out, that's not necessarily an aggressive move. That's a I don't want to pass you yet move. Look at the speed he's got now. He's really able to close up here on that Valiant vehicle. Now, pushing out to the left side, this is a passing move. Before, all he wanted to do was get a little more drag so he didn't get too close. But now we've got this. I was talking about this before. Where do you want to be, inside or outside? Can you get the traction? Can you hold on to it? Look at him put the power down on that outside line, able to get it down and hold on to it. He's going to have this as we head down into Schlossgold. He has got the pass done.
Oh, does he, though? Because it looks like Tong could try to send it up the inside. He decides not to in the end as we ride from the perspective of Mike Sachs. But, man, beautiful illustration from Hayosh there about that outside move through Ramus. And that has gotten him up into 18th, which is a gain of 7 from where he gridded up. So he's on a bit of a tear. We'll see if Sachs can follow him through because he's up 2 positions himself. Meanwhile, we're going to check back in with Briggs and Gregorado. Thomas may have gotten by Enrico, but he's not been able to shake him.
No, shaking Enrico is going to be one of the harder things he's going to have to do today. And I don't even know what he does for a living. He could build manhole covers. It's not going to be a harder thing. Passing Gregorado is one thing. Keeping him behind you, something completely different. That's going to be tough. But Briggs is now up to 7 incident points trying to hold on to this position. He needs to sit back and relax a little bit and let Gregorado collect some for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember, if he has just a single car contact that's hard enough, that'll give him 4 incidents right there. That's a drive-through just from that if he winds up banging doors. Obviously, they try to discourage that in this series, but not something I would want to leave to chance if I was the number 4 in a championship run as they swing down through Schlossgold. They've got Faciola behind them by about 1.5 seconds, so they have put him out of range for now, but they also haven't truly dropped him. He's still kind of hovering around as, oof, there's another little kick up of dust from Briggs briefly. We come back to Kessel now in the 9th position. That is the likes of Faulkner in front of him and looking like he is thirsty for this spot. Great exit here for Faulkner, or for Kessel rather.
Yeah, Faulkner had a good positioning there, just didn't quite read what was going on with Kessel. Kessel's able to get the nose down to the inside, but he's not going to be able to make it. Not that he wanted to. This is a psychological game at this point. He's trying to kind of mess with his head and let him know he's faster. But watch again. I think we're going to see him probably either lift or stick his nose out just a little bit. There you go. Little bit of nose out. Now we come up into Niki Lauda. Put the hammer down. Let's see how this works going down the straight up to Remus.
Also, just an update, poor Hayash, after running through the field, he was given a black flag. I'm not sure which incident exactly it was for, but he is going to have to give up a lot of spots now. No change of position in this group this time. Ooh, great exit by Faulkner there coming out of Remus as comes up over the Schoenberg straight and down towards the breaking of Schlossgold. You can see he's still got Stephen Kemp kind of sitting back there watching things, wondering if he could get involved, but not at least for this right-hander. Kessel, though, looking mighty good on the brakes at some of these corners.
Yeah, braking is a challenge for some people, and a lot of it comes down to what do you have on your sim rig? How good are the brakes? If you've got just a plain old plastic kind of cheap set of pedals, it's not necessarily going to be good, but it doesn't mean it's bad either if you know how to use them the right way. I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on pedal sets and rigs and wheels, and they're not any faster, and they're not any more consistent. But when you know how to use the tools you have, you can make the most of them. So let's watch and see how he is, not just in braking, but also how he uses that pedal right next to it, the throttle pedal, when he tries to come off the corner.
Yep, off of Lauda corner, though, for now, as we fly behind the likes of Faulkner. Scott Kessel just follows in his tire tracks as the track weaves back to the left slightly and then goes uphill as it slows into the right-hander of Remus. Once again, he's right on top of them, ahead of them. Not sure if that was defense or what there from Chris Cook and Chad Dick, but they looked mighty close to one another and running a strange line off the corner. And then coming down into the next one, everything once again is just coming back together as the cars just find themselves squishing and stretching apart naturally. But it's getting a bit dangerous if you're Faulkner because Kessel keeps showing himself.
Yeah, Kessel keeps trying to show that nose, just trying to get a little bit of intimidation going in there. But also when we watch Chad Dick going down through that corner, Chad did exactly what you're supposed to do there. Get your braking done early, get the car turned into that corner, and get on that throttle. You have essentially a very long straight there, and if you can make that exit, make the most of that exit, I should say, that's going to benefit you more than what the person trying to outbrake you coming into the corner was able to gain.
Look at this train of cars as well. That's Chad Dick at the front of him in the 930. And he's basically been holding his own, but he's got to be careful not to make a mistake because if he goes off track at one spot, he could easily lose multiple positions.
Yeah, Chad's a good driver, though. I've seen Chad around in different leagues. I've raced with him before. He is careful. Watching where he's placing the car, this is good placement. You want to straddle exactly like he did there. Get on the throttle there, all the way out, right up to that sausage curb, and just maybe a little bit up on it. Beautifully done. I mean, that was smart positioning from him. He's got a good rhythm going. Getting down again, you have to straddle over that curbing. get the car down. Notice how we get the closing up of Faulkner right behind him as they go into braking. But Chad, doing the smart thing, gets on that throttle and is able to open that gap right back up.
And I tell you what, the pass for second that we missed, let's watch this. This, to me, says that Briggs knows his situation. He's up to 9 incidents, 2 incidents, and he is getting a penalty here, Michael. But watch him off the exit of the corner. He overshot it, and he knew it, and he knew he could not cross that line.
Well, it's interesting there. The way you get the point there is if you go beyond the red and white curbing. So like at the end of the red and white curbing, I'm not talking about the left or right, but you can actually straddle all the way over it right there. You see how he's getting all the way out to the edge there. You can go even farther out, but you have to get back over before the curbing, the red and white portion of the curbing actually ends. But he may not have been aware about how far he could get out there, but he took the right move, taking the right choice there, and now he's just trying to hold on to that P3. Nick Facciolo, though, I think Nick has something to say about that.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. I mean, we kind of predicted this from pretty early on that Thomas is putting himself under the gun. He can't take any risks now. I don't know if Facciolo's aware of that. That's always the thing in iRacing is you don't know how many incidents your rivals have. So Nick might not be aware of the situation that Thomas is in and know that he can be aggressive with him.
But you can also watch how someone's driving and see, like if you drove with them in practice, you were running nose to tail because you knew you were going to probably be in a good position with them in the race. If you're watching and you can see they're being a little bit extra cautious in a few places, you can bet they've probably got a few more incident points than they thought they would have and are right on the verge of a drive-through. So I think Nick is smart enough to start getting up there and get close as we see Scott Kessel here up to P9, started in P10, trying to close up there, getting a little bit too wide. I think that may have been a little bit of a brake check, not an intentional being mean kind of brake check, but a different braking point brake check.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's going to be side by side up into Lauda. You talked about the outside not being the place to be, but Kessel has disregarded that advice, and he is through into 9th. In fact, Joachim Baker is going to be able to move into 10th as Stephen Kemp just couldn't get the throttle down coming out of the first turn. Does he get it back here in a Ramus? It doesn't look like it.
You know, it's funny. I love being wrong. I really do, because it makes for exciting racing like that. And every once in a while, somebody pulls something off where you're like, I didn't think you could do that. I got to try that next time I'm out there. That was pretty cool.
Absolutely. By the way, George Poulos, unfortunately, could not do certain things because, well, he got a black flag and has yet to serve it. No, it looks like he has served it. However, I am seeing James Hayosh with a black flag, but it looks like he is in pit lane right now. So I wonder if he got some sort of damage that he's having to fix currently. Just about a quarter of the way, well past quarter of the way into the race. And we've seen plenty of good action here coming through Rent once again. It's Briggs versus Facciolo. And Facciolo very much in the festive mood, judging by his paint here.
Yes, he is. I think Nick likes to have some fun with stuff when he's out on the track. I'm sure he searched for minutes to find this one. Although, you know what? He may have actually made this one himself. He is kind of a fun guy. I like racing with him. Totally something he would do.
I love that the front says he's making a list. It makes you wonder what list exactly he's working on here as Joachim once again is chasing on the man ahead. But this time it is Scott Kessel that he's trying to pass instead of Kemp. So can he get another here? Joachim's down 1 from where he started. Scott's up 1. And in fact, they're the highest drivers to have changed position. Second and third have changed. I missed that on my timing tower. But not many up at the front have been able to move to different positions and stay there. We've seen some swapping, but it seems like it's difficult to try and keep yourself in that spot. Great run there by Scott just to keep Joachim from being able to do anything here. Oh, in front of him, though, that's a change for position. In fact, that would be Chris Cook going by Jake Faulkner for 7th.
Yeah, nice move there. That's taking advantage of someone else's mistake, which is probably the most common way to affect a pass here. But look at this, not one to let it go, getting the nose back under there. Defensive line from the 47, holding it on the outside as we go through. Oh, that is definitely going to be an incident point. Could even be a slowdown.
Yes, it is.
Not sure. Yeah, that looks like a slowdown for sure. Yep.
I can see it on his timing tower. He, unfortunately, is being shown a black flag. Now, he's got to serve it in a safe place, and he has to serve it soon because he will get a drive-through penalty if he doesn't give the time back. Where does he this would be a good spot here. Okay,
he's serving it. He was backing him up. He was totally backing that train up.
Wow, he did a beautiful job. I thought for sure he'd have to give away more than that, but he is still under threat. Faulkner down to the inside as they come to the corner. As ahead of them, it looks like Facciolo is side by side with Briggs, and Briggs is at 10 incidents. If he has one more off track, he's sent through pit lane automatically by the simulator. He is going to back out of it, and I think he intentionally gave that one up.
Looked like he was trying to be a little bit intimidating there. You saw the little waver to the right, just trying to push Nick off of his game a little bit. But I can tell you from experience, that kind of stuff does not work on Nick.
Certainly didn't seem to this time, as they will stay relatively close together. So maybe he's hoping that he can get a mistake out of Facciolo and get that position right back, but he certainly can't push the issue right now. So he'll have to sit and wait patiently or hope that he's got a very high percentage move that he can execute. Behind them, I wonder if we could go back to Chris Cook and the like before. There's another big train. Faulkner's in there, Scott Kessel, Baker, Kemp, Sinclair, Lewis, Nielsen. This basically goes down to 14th. Look at that.
And this is the train that was previously led by Chad Dick. Chad decided to uncouple that locomotive and pull away from him. He's got quite the gap, about a 3-second gap on Chris Cook. So Chad Dick, not wanting to play that game anymore, just decided to put the hammer down and pull away.
Now that side by side there, that's Yoakum with Kemp there to the inside. Can Kemp make it stick as we watch from Sinclair? That's a big yes. Look at that run.
Ooh, nicely done. Very good move. Everybody just see, this is the point in the game where we're approaching about halfway. We're going to start seeing some people trying for some pit maneuvers, pit moves, pit stall dives to see when they can get in there and get that fuel, get those tires changed out. I think everybody wants to be in their final run position where they're going to make that dash for the final position of the race.
And stewards have been busy today. Peter Yurtza is our latest to get the black flag. So they're not messing around. They want everybody to play nice, which kind of explains why we saw everybody be so trepidatious there at the start as we get some side by side now coming up to Rent once again. Lewis around the outside, Yoakum on the inside, and Yoakum is going to be pitting in.
Yep, coming down the pit lane here. Now it's an interesting pit lane here. The entrance from the track is from a very high speed corner. So you have to really bleed off that speed. And if someone's close behind you, it could really mess up their lap. So it's a good defensive move or actually offensive move to make that little bit of a slow. As we look at a pass attempt going up into turn one, pushes Nick wide. Nick got pushed wide on that. Did he make it? Nope, he made the corner. He got it. Looks like he's back around. Briggs is back into P3.
Wow. Okay, so I didn't expect him to be able to do that, but Thomas has not given up on this. Confidence in his own abilities, I suppose, to be able to clean up his act. Behind them, that is Robbie Prescott. So that is for position. This is essentially third, fourth, and fifth on track.
Yeah, if Nick knew what was going on, he could get up there and just make a little bit of a mirror-to-mirror feigned innocent touch and get that point in there, but I don't think he knows. And honestly, knowing Nick, I don't think he would be that dastardly trying to do that. He's got the making a list on the front. He knows that it's not just him, it's the stewards making the list, and they would watch that very closely.
Yeah, Nick doesn't need to be the naughty one here. He's basically got to, all he can do is be nice and just watch Thomas Briggs unfortunately get coal in his stocking. Now, that said, Briggs is starting to pull away slightly, so maybe he's readjusted his lines and has figured out something a little quicker as we check in on Fernandez, who started this race from 29th, up 6 positions. But Steinbrink ahead of him has done him 5 better, actually, up 11 spots since the beginning of this race.
11 spots, quite a run. We got a couple of really good movement here. We got Steinbrink. We also have 15 spots from Brandon Harrison, a couple of positions up from there. There's some good movers in this field, especially in that mid-pack. A lot of people have been able to make good time through the field as they work their way through the first half of this race.
Fernandez, also a new driver in the PCA, arriving here at Series 9 for the very first time. Ooh, they're awful close to one another. Can't believe nobody stuck their nose out on that one. Maybe focusing on corner exit here. Almost contact between Steinbrink and Leung. That actually checks him up. And now David has a shot at maybe trying it down into Schlossgold.
Yeah, Schlossgold's a good place to try to get your opponent off their game. You want to get the nose out there. Passes can be made from here. Believe me, I know all too well that a pass can be made here. And if you get your opponent just a little bit off their game, well, you're gonna get passed.
Carrying down through Rauk, we now look from Brandon Harrison, just a little bit up the road. That is Jason Brodigan just in front of him currently. And these two also have gained positions. Harrison, though, up 16 from the beginning of this race, certainly doing quite fine for himself, although behind him, woo, that was a little wide there for Brodigan. Got to watch out for those incident limits. Not sure how many drive-throughs we've had from incidents yet. I'm sure we'll get some updates on that a little later. How about this man, though? Didn't have, oh, who was that? Off at the side of the track, Peter Yurtsa.
That looks like Peter Yurtsa. Easy spot to have a little. See, he caught that gravel, pushed it just a little bit too far on the outside of Schlossgold, got the gravel, lost the rear end. Car goes shooting across to the inside. Very common thing to see happen there.
That's a bit of a shame. He's already had a black flag, so he's unfortunately been a bit behind, so he just lost a lap there. As we come back to Scott Kessel in the number 48. Currently vying for that 8th position with Faulkner just in front of him. Let's stay here, but I want to give a big shout out as well to the 77 machine. Kerry Brooks is also out on his first race and doing pretty good. He's in 14th position, up 1 from where he started. So here as we watch the battle down into the final turn, Faulkner not that hot off the corner. Here comes Kessel with a great run.
This is a good run. Does he want to make the pass here? Is he going to stick the nose in? Looks like it. Tries to get him under braking. Can he hold the corner, get the power down quickly enough? Yep, looks like doesn't want to try to battle that too much. Maybe take it down to when they get up to Remus. It's not too big of an ask at this point, especially sitting in his draft, but I think that gap might be just a little bit too big.
Yeah, don't think he can send it from there. I was about to say when we were looking at Grotto, whoa, as he goes wide, Kessel might have just shot himself in the foot there. It wasn't the entry into the corner, it was the exit that wound up hurting him, and Faulkner now has the return run coming down the Schoenberg straight, coming into the braking of Schlossgold. He manages to get to the inside. He's got to finish the job, and no, he can't.
Good job on the defense there. Let him take that inside line, but keep him pinched down, and then you decide when to go to throttle. He did that exactly like I wish I had done about 2-3 weeks ago.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda, I suppose. But I was going to say, if I could stop being interrupted on my point about Grotto, he didn't have the greatest of races back at Road America, even though it wasn't the worst in the world. In fact, it wasn't his drop week. But man, he has bounced back and has just looked unflappable today.
Yeah, indeed he has. But speaking of unflappable, this gap here we're looking at, this is what just not that long ago was about a 3-second gap. Nick Facciolo has closed this back up onto Thomas Briggs. I think Nick may have gotten a run wide penalty and had to bleed off some time. And now he's coming back with a vengeance. Look at how close he's got this. He is keeping that gap right at where he wants it right now, right around 3.5 tenths of a second. This is getting close. I think Nick has the opportunity, probably before we get seriously into pit rotation, to go ahead and take that position back.
As he follows him down, just about getting underneath that rear wing around Schlossgold. It does indeed look like he has slightly better pace right now. So Thomas Briggs has got to weigh his options. How hard does he fight? What does he risk in this situation? His fight is with Nick, and yet it's not with Nick. It needs to be with Grotto and needs to be big picture. But can Thomas manage that here in this high-pressure situation? It may be a comical paint job on Nick Facciolo, but it is deadly serious between these two right now.
Yeah, this is the drive I expected to see from Nick Facciolo. He is a quick driver. Look at that. Gets a good run out of A1. They're going around a lapped car. Nick brings it all the way around. Oh, look at that. Good move by Gregorado there, trying to hold on to the position. And it's a drag race once again. Nick has to slot in behind him. Wow. Holding on to the outside after the first lap on turn one. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and he was very, very close to an incident point as Nick is going to send it in deep. Remember, he can't have a car contact here either. Can't spin the car. It's Facciolo who nearly does that as he spins up the wheels coming out of Ramus. And Briggs is able to streak away once again as now Robbie Prescott is once more getting close to the 717 car. This is fierce stuff from Thomas Briggs. I don't think I would be quite that brave, but that's why he's out there and I'm not, Michael, because he could so easily get a little touch from Nick and the day would be ruined.
I guess he figures at this point, it really doesn't matter. I'm sure some of those early incident points came to as a surprise to him, because I remember we were, 1 lap in, 1.5 laps in, he already had 4. I'm sure he was sitting there going, well, I'm just going to make the best of it. I'll race all the way to the end and hold on to that final point.
That's what he's doing right now, trying to keep his cool in this situation. We're getting close. Actually, we are within the pit window. We've been well within it, but will we see many cars in from here is the question. Will potentially Nick Facciolo feel like he's fast enough that he could pull the undercut, which doesn't usually work as much here in GT cars on iRacing, but who knows? Maybe he can do something in this. We've got a weird situation. Joe Sinclair just caused an accident on pit entry with Peter Yurtza. That is one of the strangest wrecks I've ever seen.
Ooh, we should take a look at that. Let's see if we can get the replay machine going here. Let's take a look as he gets the nose around there. Interesting pass. Rear end comes around.
Watch this, though.
That could be a little bit of wing wash. And then, I think I'll just go for the pits. That's going to be a dangerous pit entry right there. Oh, yeah, you can't do that. That is not a legal pit entry.
Peter's got to be wondering what else can happen to me tonight. Because, I don't think he was expecting Sinclair to be at, 3 miles an hour in front of him on their entry to the pit. So I hope they don't blame Peter for that one. That to me is kind of a Sinclair thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not Peter at all.
In fact, Peter, unfortunately, has retired because of that incident. Well, maybe not because of it, but I would assume that had quite an effect on it. As we jump back to the battle here for a second. Hopefully it doesn't erupt here, because I want to ask the audience, are you struggling to consistently go faster? Do you know how to find another 10th off your lap time? We'll join our very own physicist, Nikki Chan, to learn all about driving technique, car setup, telemetry analysis, and more via YouTube videos on last10th.com. Nikki is also available for one-on-one coaching and custom setup sessions. Contact him on Discord for a trial session now so you can squeeze that last 10th off your lap time. Last 10th, better car, better driver. And it looks like the better driver in this match might be Prescott, who has taken advantage of a mistake from Facciolo. In fact, he is going to get around and into 4th.
Yeah, good move there. That's how you make a pass here. It is really difficult to pass here if you're not on your game, because everyone, especially at this level, is on their game. You have to force them into a mistake. Every pass we have seen tonight has been because somebody made a mistake, and mistakes are very easy to make here.
Yeah, there have been plenty. We've also had a black flag for Jeff Lewis recently, so he's been sent down pit lane in extra time, unfortunately. And there you can see the spread of the field. Yeah, there's not many large gaps out here. I said it wasn't that long of a lap, and that really illustrates it. But currently, our top runners have not pit in yet. In fact, the highest driver to have pitted is Jochen Baker in the 3:30. Nobody else above 24th has made a scheduled stop that I can make out. This is Grotto out on screen. 9.7 seconds over Greg Grotto in cruising.
Yeah, he's been able to open up quite a bit. Now, part of that is Greg Grotto is trying to hold on to that last incident point he has. And he's also trying to keep, Prescott now, but also Nick Facciolo for a while. Driving defensively in a race will really eat away at your lap times. And these guys are running fast. Grotto just ran a 29.8 on his last lap. Greg Grotto was about a 30.2. Briggs was a 30.1. Prescott was a 30 flat, and Facciolo was a 31.3. So yeah, you called it right. He had some kind of little wobbly thing going on there that cost him a lot of time, because he's been running right around that 30 flat time.
To the shock of absolutely no one, Joe Sinclair was given a black flag for the incident on an unsafe rejoin. So he'll have to come into pit lane again after he'd already just been in recently. But I'm sure even he saw that one coming as well. Meanwhile, Prescott versus Briggs versus Facciolo for the final step on the podium. I got to give a lot of credit to Briggs here for his fight back and for his managing his incident points while still keeping a fair amount of speed.
Yeah, he's been really good on pace. If you look at what his lap times have been, he just ran a 29.9. That was his fastest lap of the race. Now, part of that is fuel. He's burned off a good bit of fuel, and that helps, especially in these cars. The front end comes up, and you get a little bit more air getting into that diffuser in the rear, helps that rear end hold a little bit stronger. So, yeah, he's doing a good job managing that. Now we're going to have to watch as Nick Facciolo is trying to make that move up onto Prescott. He wants to get that position back real soon, and we have seen him exactly in this position in just a different car in front of him not that long ago.
And we did see on screen, that was Prescott, unfortunately having to kind of take evasive maneuvers on Ambrosino, who was being lapped, but was slow off the first turn. And that's what's put him in this position. So Facciolo probably thanking traffic now, but will he thank it again later when they start to hit more cars? Because traffic giveth and traffic taketh.
Yeah, I had a race earlier today on iRacing where I was having that exact trouble. I could turn a lap as fast as the guy who ended up winning, but I kept running into traffic in really bad locations, and it just, the seas parted for him. So I think Nick needs a little bit of Moses action here to get those seas to part so he can catch up and get back through Prescott here and get back into fourth position.
Ooh, this is a great run here. So Prescott is not defending yet. He holds the left-hand side, allows the gap to stay open for Facciolo. He's got the inside, but we've seen him outbrake himself here before. This time he learned his lesson, and Facciolo is back into P4, but he's got to make up 1.7 seconds to catch Briggs.
I give him 3 laps.
Oh, okay.
Seriously, I think 3 laps, Nick has got it back up there. Unless, this is a good move, but Nick's going to be able to hold that outside. Can he get back down on the power and make it down the straightaway? Ooh, this is getting tight. Is he going to be able to make that happen? He is still ahead of Prescott, just barely. About a half a car, looks like, as they come down into the braking zone. Nick holding it up to the outside, gets the turn in. Yep, looks like he was able to make that, because braking on the marbles is not easy in that location because of that downhill.
Yeah, that is for sure. I thought he was going to go off course, though. He really sent that thing in. Facciolo did make the turn in the end. So back into fourth once more after it was in doubt for a brief moment, but it went from 1.7 seconds to now 2.3. And remember, it's not just catching up to him, but also trying to pass him here. And he's got 20 minutes left, so you can't dilly-dally too much. Meanwhile, Faulkner here is chasing on Kessel. Now, this has been an ongoing battle for much of the race, and right now it's for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, let's take a look at Faulkner here. Gets the car positioned beautifully, runs over that inside curbing, let it push out a little bit wider than where he was. If he carries just a tiny bit more speed there, the car is actually more comfortable when you get out beyond the red and white onto the green and white with your right side tires, and that would allow him to get closer and make a better run out of this corner, because coming up out of here, trying to make your way down to Ramos is challenging when you're this far off the tail of the car in front of you.
We've got about 5 to 8 minutes probably in terms of fuel before they need to come in and take their stop. So this is going to have to take a break for that eventually. Question is, who comes in when? And also, will either of them decide to take all 4 tires? Because I believe we found out last time that it was slightly longer with 4 tires. Is that what we understood?
It is slightly longer with 4 tires. There is either 1 tire and a front tire versus a rear tire. It is a little bit different if you're only changing 1. But when you're doing all 4, yeah, it's a little bit longer. But the time it takes to put the fuel in to get to the end, that's the real kicker. So the tires, you're looking at 12 seconds or so to get all 4 done, maybe 14. But the fuel is probably going to take a little bit longer than that, as we're looking at stationary times upward of about 15 seconds on average from what I'm seeing through the field.
Briggs is in. That's interesting. Oh, and Facciolo follows. Okay. Prescott is left alone to his own methods for now. And Facciolo is going to follow the same method as the car that he was chasing, which means highly unlikely that he's going to be able to jump in the pits, considering the distance between them. There have been stranger things, though. We'll watch and see if that winds up being the case, as this is our race leader. You talked earlier about not getting a lot of screen time, and that's kind of been the case for the 15 here. There's just been nothing to show of him.
Yeah, well, when you're not doing anything because there's nobody to race, there's no point in us covering it. It would be boring to just watch the leader turn circles. I had a sponsor 1 year early on in my pro career where we were probably 10th, 11th in the field on a restart, got spun sideways and went sliding past in the last race of the year. And the sponsor on the car, who hadn't planned on re-upping for the year, ended up re-upping for the entire next year because of the screen time they got from that crash.
This is Terrence Tong, who looks like he's going to lose another spot after he just let Facciolo by, and that is Jeff Lewis, who is sneaking past. Now, here's the other downside, not just the undercut sometimes not working, but Facciolo has had to overtake cars that haven't pit. That's going to slow him down. Prescott, who is pitting now, might actually be able to pull the overcut.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a gamble. You never know exactly how well it's going to work in an iRacing situation. You don't have a crew of 150 people like you have in a Formula One team, with probably 6 of them deciding when you are going to pit and what the gaps are going to be, being able to slot you out. So you kind of have to make an educated guess and a little bit of wish and a prayer. It doesn't always work, but when it does, you feel like, yep, I planned that. That's exactly how I wanted that to look.
Prescott's coming out, and no, he will not be able to go past Facciolo, so Nick really was on a tear. In fact, Nick has caught up to Briggs in that process. You weren't kidding when you thought that he was going to run him down, because even with dealing with traffic and everything, he has now got him to within less than a second ahead of him. We have had everybody but Chad Dick, Chris Cook, Mike Sachs, and Jason Brodigan having pit now. So just about 4 more cars that need to finish their service.
And I finally got one right. That was the 3rd race lap that he got up to there. So I called it in 3 and I got it.
Wow.
So it's not a commentator's curse this time.
Impressive stuff. Chad Dick gets briefly a moment of the limelight as he leads this race, but now he pits in, and that is going to give the lead back to Grotto. Chris Cook probably going to follow him in. I got to think this is probably the end of the pit window. Yes, he is. So that will relinquish second place back to Greg Grotto as well. And indeed, Grotto is now your leader with 15 minutes left on the clock. So we get a clearer picture from here, and if you're going to make passes, they have to happen on track. Well, Facciolo's trying to make that happen. Here we go, down the front stretch, coming up to Lauda. Big defense this time from Thomas Briggs. He's not messing around. Going to force him the long way round into this fast right-hander, and he is not going to be able to take it this time. Nick has to set up again.
Yeah, I think Nick is trying to frustrate him a little bit, as Gregorado is also doing. Enrico is doing his best impression of something incredibly frustrating. I know there's a funny term out there for it. Maybe you can come up with it.
Well, right now, I think they're a little bit worried about Volker Krebs, because he is potentially going to be in the way unless he tries to dance around this potential battle. Let's see if he gets the space to do so, because now they're coming into the infield, which is a little bit harder. But look at that. Nice sportsmanship. Looks like he's already pulling off to the side here, even though it's going to cost him time just to make sure he can let them through.
Yeah, Haribo Wakendoful, but it doesn't look like Santa's going to be too happy being held up through this midsection.
No, the gummy bears do not make good milk and cookies, apparently, and going around the outside there is a bunch of time lost, and now Prescott is back on him once again. This makes life so much more frustratingly hard for Nick Facciolo. He wants to attack on Briggs, but Prescott's been fast today, and he's been taking advantage of situations whenever they crop up. So if an ill move is made by the 717, I got to think that he's going to make himself incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah, and Prescott has already taken advantage of that at least once in this race, where he's been able to get pretty close. But Nick has already closed up about 2/10 from the last time we mentioned his name. So he is absolutely on a tear. Look at this, down to 5/10, half a second. He was up at about 8/10 when we were looking at him coming around the A1 corner.
So is Santa's sleigh going to fly here in these final minutes, or is he going to be grounded today? Because he's still got some houses to go by if he wants to deliver a podium finish. He's been fighting Briggs for it for some time. As we come back to Kerry Brooks here in 11th spot. Still some great battles here in the mid-pack as well that we're trying to give some love. That's Mark Lacombe just in front of him, but he's also got Brett Holmes, Chris Cook, Klaus Nielsen right behind him, breathing down his neck.
Yeah, the mid-pack, I always love watching these mid-pack races. It doesn't matter the series, F1 especially. You see some of the best racing in the mid-pack. Race I was in recently at this track, I led the race for about 15, 16 laps, except for the one that mattered. And but all the love went to this amazing race that was going on right in that 6, 7, 8, 9 position.
Yeah, this is where the fun is, but so is it coming down the front stretch. Nick has got another good run. Thomas kind of half-heartedly defends. He leaves the door open, gives him space, and at the exit, trying not to run into his rival, still finds the traction somehow. Nick really is on the nice list today, but can he finish the job?
It is a drag race, and so far Nick has got almost a car, well, about a half a car now going into the braking zone. Looks like Gregorado's in the better position, but Nick makes better use of the corner, gets in front of Gregorado, has the hammer down, and is able to make that pass stick.
I think they might have had a bit of ghost contact, because we're hearing there was a 0x counted between them. So Thomas Briggs got, I think, the warning shot there from the virtual stewards on what could happen, because if that was a 4X, his race would be over and he would be out of this fight. But Prescott wouldn't mind as we ride on board with him. But now Briggs is on the back foot, and he's going to have to take this one back.
Indeed he is. Now, a quick correction. I keep saying Gregorado. I actually mean Briggs. For some reason, Gregorado is in my head. He's a good enough driver to get in my head, so sure.
There's a lot of action happening. Sometimes this is tough. People don't realize how tough of a job this is to do and be entertaining. But right now, they're making it easy for us to be entertaining, because my goodness, what a battle this has been. Did look like Briggs was a little circumspect there coming through Rent and A1. Thought I saw him back off a little bit when he headed through them a little fast.
Yeah, you can see there's a bit more of a gap than there was as they went into A1 earlier, but really good launch out of Lauda. He has got a great launch there, and he's in the draft. Nick's going to have to hold a defensive position here. We're looking at about a quarter second between Briggs and Facciolo. This is pretty tight. So, get the nose out there, trying to close up underneath. As the outside line faster, looks like Nick's going to be able to get the hammer down. Just as I was saying, as it happens there, that corner is where you definitely want to be on the outside.
So Briggs got a shot at it, but couldn't quite make it through. He's going to show his nose. He's going to look to the inside, tries not to touch his rival, just manages to stay out of him, and is going to stay in fourth. As that was happening in the first corner, Kessel and Faulkner had a fantastic exchange up through Niki Lauda, in which Kessel made the move around the outside. There's just so much to watch here in these late stages of the race, and we only have so much screen space to show you and so much time. So hopefully we can get as much of the action as we can here in the final 10 minutes. All of them, look at them opening up this final corner, trying to take it as wide on entry as they possibly can to carry the speed. But Briggs is starting to drop off of Facciolo.
Wow, and watching these two, it just sent shivers down my spine, because this is almost an exact replay of a race that I did here in this car. You were calling it. So I don't know if you're seeing the similarities, but I definitely am.
If I'm honest, I have called so many races that, like, my mind is just frazzled in terms of what's familiar to each other. Also, we're getting info that Prescott is at 10 incidents as well. So both Prescott and Briggs are basically sitting vulnerable here. And Facciolo, actually, we haven't heard how many Facciolo is. We'll see if we can send our friend to go look at that here in a moment, because three incidents compared to 10. Oh yeah, he can take some risks here. He can really force them into uncomfortable situations, because even at a car contact, as long as Nick doesn't spin the car or cause damage, he's still fine.
And Gregorato, and yes, I do mean Gregorato this time, is sitting with 0 incident points.
We got to get a replay. George Poulos just spun in front of our battle that we had been watching just as we cut away. Thankfully, none of them hit him, but that was probably a heart-in-your-mouth moment for all three vying for the podium here. Here it is right here.
Yeah, going into the corner, carrying just a little bit too much speed. I think he's going to have a little bit of, yeah, there we go. Exactly what I was thinking. Got a little bit too far out, and woo! Man, I think there was an intentional late apex right there from Robbie Prescott.
Yeah, here, let's watch from his view, and then we need to come back live because Facciolo's under threat from Briggs once again. Yeah, he said, please don't do that again.
Yeah, it's a total late apex right there. That was much later than he wanted to.
Meanwhile, here we go. Oh, no, braking early. Briggs is braking early. Does he?
I wonder if he got a...
No, he does have a black flag. He got his last incident. That was it. So he wasn't going to fight it. He let Prescott through, knowing that he couldn't be able, it wasn't worth trying to cause an issue there for the one car. Oh my goodness.
But Prescott's at 10. So let's see how he's able to do it. Let's take a look here. Coming up. Oh, this is tight. Look how close he is, right up on the bumper. Gets his nose out as they're coming up into the braking zone. Oh, was that contact? I think it was a little bit of contact that happened. I don't think he got too wide. It looks like he might have gotten just a little bit of contact there, and that was the point he needed.
Oh my goodness, unbelievable. So who knows how far down he's going to fall from here, as here is the pit entry, and yep, he's going to take it this lap. Going to try and maximize that entry as much as he can and whip through the pit lane without speeding if he can help it, so he doesn't get another penalty from the sim. So this promotes Chad Dick up into 5th. Nice job to him. Faulkner up to 6th most likely. And, well, that's Faulkner just up in the front of this group, actually. That's got Kessel directly ahead of us, and we're on board with Yoakum in the 330. And Briggs is coming out just about now. So, no, Faulkner's not going to get by him.
Yeah, this is a really tight little battle here. With about 6 minutes left in this race, somebody's going to have to move. Meanwhile, Thomas Briggs comes back out in P6, so he didn't lose all that much position-wise, but time-wise, he's got about 8 seconds up to Chad Dick, and it's another 4 seconds up to Robbie Prescott from there.
Faulkner with a great job. He clipped the inside curb and still found the traction better than Kessel, but Kessel's pinching him at first. Now he starts to give him space into the braking of Schlossgold, and I thought he'd be able to feed him out. Now he starts to, but they make contact. Kessel's into the gravel. He gets back onto the circuit. Baker is almost through, but he doesn't have the momentum to be able to get by. And we've seen that in real life multiple times with a very difficult call from the stewards. I don't know how they would call this one if they give any sort of penalty out here, Michael.
In my eyes, it looked fair. Let's take a look at the replay here, though. I reserve right to change my mind. They go into the corner. It's essentially side by side. They are still racing. This is a push out. He pushes them out. There is still overlap. You got to give racing room, but I think it's going to be looked at as just a racing incident, because at one point you kind of feel like the corner's yours and you're out, you're done. It was essentially there, but not completely.
Yeah, you talked about F1 and hard racing. That exact situation has played out multiple times there, and we've had a problem with Klaus Nielsen. He's slow, and I'm checking to see. Oh, he just had a self-spin, it looks like. Just lost control of the car through the final turn. That cost him a couple positions. So he'll get going in 15th, but unfortunately he's now dropped down from where he began. As we look ahead of him from onboard Stephen Kemp, this is Brooks just in front of him. This is the battle for 13th.
Yeah, here we are. We've got a little on board here with Stephen Kemp. Watch him in his VR. This is what my girlfriend sees when she watches me, because I have VR on too. And boy, am I totally immersed in it. I have no idea she's there. And then she'll tap me on the shoulder, and you should see me just grab the ceiling. It's funny.
I can imagine. I would think there's some sort of agreement to not touch you when you've got the VR headset.
There is, but she just finds it incredibly funny.
Oh, of course. Meanwhile, coming down through Rauch once again. Let's watch the 77 in his first ever race. He manages to keep Kemp behind, but how much longer will he be able to do that? Because Kemp looks like he's pretty fast here.
Yeah, Kerry Brooks doing a good job to hold on to the position. First race here with us in the 77 vehicle. But on board here, this is time. He's trying to open up that gap. See, he just opened up a little bit, and now he's pushing as we come to A1. He's going to try to make this pass. I think we're going to see Stephen Kemp try to make this pass, probably coming out of Lauda. But there's a slower car up there. This is a tough decision. What do you do?
If it's me, I'd say stay a little patient, because that car could give you a good opportunity. Prescott here in fourth is still hounding Facciolo. Now that it's just the two of them, that makes a little bit of a simpler job, but simple is an overstatement there on Facciolo, because as we've seen, he's tough to pass when he has speed, and tough to keep behind you, because even once you pass him, he sticks with it.
Yeah, and one thing you've got to watch out for at this track is the wing wash, and especially going down into A1. It is such a fast corner, so watch them here. This is the penultimate corner. Get way out wide, and right here, that wing wash will really catch you off guard if you're not careful. Now, notice how when we were watching Nick there in the car in front, he took a fully wide arc out of that. Robbie Prescott in the trailing car kind of had to pull off a little bit. I bet he got a little bit of wing wash and was trying to control the car a bit there.
Ooh, Faulkner's been given a black flag. So, and that was from relatively recently. I need to go and check which specific incident this was for, but that's going to cost him, because he was running a pretty good race there for quite some time. And unfortunately, it just does not seem to be meant to be here. White flag getting ready to be pulled out for Logan Grotto pretty soon. There he is coming out of Vert, and just two more corners to this lap. He's been lapping everybody up to 24th at this stage. So incredible speed here and a very composed race. All he has to do is circulate one more time, and he puts a pretty good distance over his rivals.
Yeah, coming out of Rent and A1, going past the flag station, coming up to turn 1. Now all he's got to do is just manage this traffic. Now behind him to Enrico Gregorato, it's about an 11-second gap. He could almost push the car at this point, and he'd be fine all the way to the finish. But Gregorato would probably like to see him do that so he can get a little bit closer. Gregorato has not had much to do this race since the first few laps. So now we're back on to Nick Facciolo here. Now look at Nick. He is trying to keep this gap where it is. He did not push that corner too hard because he knows last lap mistakes are the worst lap mistakes. You can make up for a mistake if you made it in the first or second or third lap, but the last lap, do not make a mistake there. Try to pull it back a little bit, especially when you've got a gap like he has to Prescott right at 1.1 seconds.
Well, and especially for Prescott, because remember, he could get a black flag, and if that happens on the last lap, he can't serve it. Therefore, it's a time penalty automatically added to his finishing time. So he could fall down multiple positions in the process with a few very nearby. There's nobody nearby this man. The 15 ready to claim another victory in Series 9. Logan Grotto looking like he might be on his way to a championship the way this penultimate race has gone. It's a win today in Austria for Logan.
And looking at Gregorato here trying to come across the finish line using a little bit more than I think he was comfortable with. Crosses over, a little bit of weaving back and forth. Nice job by Enrico Gregorato. Let's go take a look and see what Nick's doing back there.
Facciolo gets himself on the podium today. What a drive. That might be my drive of the race, honestly, for him to fight that hard and still come away with it despite the speed of his rivals. Meanwhile, this is the battle between Faulkner and Lewis. Faulkner, having just served his penalty, is on the defense here. In fact, I think he lost a spot to Mark Lacombe just recently. Lacombe, and as they come down into the final turn, all he has to do is be smooth here. Faulkner looks like he's got the speed. Lewis approaches, but it's not enough. So Jake will get 11, just outside of the top 10. Only going to see those 24 cars that I mentioned on the lead lap. Fernandez, another first-time race here. Brett Holmes just in front of him. No, looks like that multicolored car is not going to give it up. So Fernandez up 11 spots at the first try. That is one to write home about, if you ask me. And is that somebody? Oh, that's a lapped car. So that's Cottle. I was going to, or Poulos rather. I thought maybe somebody was out of fuel, but it looks like he'll be able to get home fine. Well then, it's been a lot of excitement, but I do believe that's going to take us to a very short break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Brake a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to the Red Bull Ring, the penultimate event here for Series 9 in the PCA Sim Racing Series. And Logan Grotto took the win as Enrico Gregorato behind him just couldn't keep the pace. He was within 9.7 seconds. Remember, that was as high as 11, so Logan kind of backed off there on that last lap. Facciolo in third had to fend off a lot of challengers, but wound up holding on to that podium position. Robbie Prescott was kind of hovering around, but unfortunately with the number of incident points he racked up, couldn't really push the issue at the end. Chad Dick was P5 as Thomas Briggs. Not bad considering he had that black flag, but third place versus a sixth is probably not going to leave him very happy. Jochen Baker was in seventh as Scott Kessel was eighth and Chris Cook ninth. Mark Lacombe was the last of the top 10 as we cycle through the rest of the results of our 38 starters this evening. Logan's ready to talk to us after that dominant win, and kind of have to ask him how his race went more because we didn't get to know Logan. There wasn't much screen time for you, which I'm sure you're not too disappointed about.
No, it was a really nice race. Once we got going and got into the groove, it just felt really great. I love this track. Sounds like you might have someone still delivering presents here after Christmas in the background. Oh, but talk to us about this performance versus what we saw at Road America. What a rebound to come back and just dominate tonight. Oh, I just felt really good about my pace here. Road America, as you know, we had that last-minute update, and I got bitten by it. But tonight, just was able to stay in front and just drive away with it. Yeah, definitely made sure and took kind of took your destiny into your own hands at this one. So that means that you've extended the gap, although you're not mathematically out of it with your rivals behind you, heading to the last race at Daytona, which is always kind of a bit of a crapshoot because of the slipstream. So what do you do to help yourself try and take the championship next time out? I think what it really comes down to is patience. Just, try to get in those good lap times and know the race is 6 minutes long, so you don't have to win it in the first lap. Well done. And if you need to go finish up with those presents, best of luck to you and congratulations on the win. Thanks, Joe. That was Logan Grotto, your victor here today. And we'll see if my little helper, Michael Johnson, has now caught up with Enrico Gregorato.
Indeed, I have, Enrico. Not entirely a boring race, but it seemed like there wasn't a lot going on around you. How did that race unfold for you?
The start was pretty intense with Thomas battling, but I was glad to get a gap and then just cruise around and count the laps. Tough track, easy to make mistakes. So, I was just trying to keep it safe and get to the end.
Well, between you and Thomas, that little scrap that was going on at the beginning, somehow I flipped your guys' names and I kept calling your name when I was watching, when we were talking about him and Facciolo going at it. So you got mentioned a ton in this race, but unfortunately it wasn't actually you. Hopefully next time out, we're going to get a little bit more of that. What are you thinking your next race is going to look like? You're going to run away with it? You're going to sit in the mid pack? What's going to happen?
I hope it goes like the last six. Just try to get good qualifying and then duke it out with whoever's at the front. Hopefully Logan's not going to be as fast as he was here, but we'll see.
Well, who do you have to thank for your P2 today?
I'd like to thank my family who put up with me doing this. I spent quite a few hours practicing at the Red Bull Ring. Our sponsors, Pirelli and Six Sigma, as well as Podium. You guys do such a great job. My spotter, James Fransnick, who was looking out for me today. And just everyone who takes part in PCA Sim Racing, all the EDEs and all the races. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That was Enrico Gregorato, our P2 finisher today. But now Joe, I believe, has Nick Facciolo after that crazy race, who must be just sweating gobs.
Yeah, I have to ask Nick because I know I had said late in the race that yours was kind of my drive of the race, honestly. How did it feel from inside the cockpit? Because it looked like a masterclass from our perspective.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, but it was heart was racing the entire time, just praying not to make a mistake and holding on to the back of the people in front of me.
Now, we were debating on your awareness of the situation with those around you, because Briggs got up to 10 incidents very early in that race and kind of had to take it easy. Did at any point, did it dawn on you that he couldn't really risk the penalty that wound up eventually coming?
So that is what happened to him. I had 3 incidents with about 10 or 15 minutes to go, so I figured it was time to really dial it up a notch, and he seemed to cave on that additional pressure. So I wasn't sure if it was incidents or bald tires or whatever it may be, but I was happy that it was came out the way it did.
Worked out fantastically in the end, that is for sure. And you've been playing catch up on Briggs and Gregorato now. Unfortunately, you didn't gain points on Enrico, but obviously did on Thomas. So what's your take coming into this last race? How do you approach this final one, and what's the goal on the final finishing position?
Oh, I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but the goal is, I think, the 3rd step on the season podium. We'll see if it's actually in the cards, but that's certainly the goal.
Well, I wish you best of luck on that, and I think it's feasible if you have another drive like you had today. Congratulations on a podium. That was hard earned.
Thank you so much.
That was Nick Facciolo, who finished 3rd here today, which is going to wrap us up. But join us tomorrow night at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the Pro Class, the fastest drivers. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsors for Series 9, which, of course, includes Pirelli and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to LastTenth.com. Better car, better driver. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, Michael, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. None of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.